Hello, friends and colleagues. I am I am paranoid. There's people outside. You know that? There's people outside. There's people outside. They're listening to me. I just moved into an apartment. They're listening to me. Everybody can hear through all of my walls. I'm paranoid. Everybody can hear what I'm saying, and they're making derogatory judgments on what I'm saying. I'm trying to explain myself, but it's not worth me explaining because I'm already under such heavy scrutiny for the things I say. I mean, it's not so much just that people can see me through the windows, although they can. That's just a classic definition of paranoia. It's just more that I'm being suffocated on all sides by people who are listening to me and therefore and making judgments because I'm below them in some way, or I'm above them and they think they're jealous of me, or they think that I'm jealous of them. I think it must be that they think that I'm making judgments on them. Either way, I am some sort of point of interest or point of fascination to the people around me. There's nothing I can do about it. And then when I make a podcast, it's not that people just take it in like I'm somebody else. It has to be some great point of fascination, or I'm really special in some way. I'm special. It's my speciality that makes me this way. It's because I'm so important. It's because people can't go on with their lives without recognizing me as somebody important, that I am so paranoid. I mean, of course I'm paranoid because I'm special, right? Because I'm unique. Because people go out of their way to make my life terrible. But there's a reason that they do, and it's because I am so terrible. It's because I'm recognizably terrible, and I'm more horrible than other people for some reason. I'm more absolute. I'm more either absolutely good and people are jealous of me, or I'm absolutely evil and people know it and they're trying to find fault with me. I mean, I'm the person to find fault with, right? More so than anybody else. I have the right to be found fault with. I have the right for people to find fault with me more so than anybody else because I deserve the paranoia. Of course I'm paranoid because I deserve this, because this is the state I'm in. What other state would I be in? People are focusing on me all the time, and the world unfolds so as to make me more paranoid. The world unfolds so as to point to me in some way and make me more absolute. And it's kind of like when people used to think that the universe used to revolve around the world, but that's what I think. That's what I think as a paranoid person, as entirely paranoid, is that people revolve around me to some degree. They keep acknowledging me, and if I'm nervous, everybody knows that I'm nervous, and if I'm having a problem, everybody knows I have a problem, and everybody knows exactly what the problem. They can communicate it, and everybody's pegged me to have the problem, and everybody knows that I'm paranoid. Everybody has pegged me to have the problem, and they're judging me exactly in the words that I'm thinking, and they can read my thoughts, and people can read my thoughts, and they know inside my brain. And when I do something, people already know what I'm doing, and it's sort of a narcissistic thing because I think that people can hear my thoughts, but more so when I speak and do things, I think that people already know exactly where I'm coming from because people are already inside my head, but they're already inside my head because I'm a point of interest to them, and they've already been focusing on me. Of course, they've already been focusing on me enough to analyze me, to understand exactly the way that I move about, and so of course I'm paranoid because that's what people are doing to me. They're analyzing me all the time, the same way that I analyze unequivocally, that I analyze completely and thoroughly. They analyze me the same way that I try to figure out other people. I mean, other people are trying to figure me out, but more so that they're mad at me. But obviously I'm more important than other people. Obviously I'm more important than other people enough to be paranoid. I've earned the paranoia. I get and people can hear me and people are listening to me, so I have to be quieter, and I'm more afraid of what's going on. I make up things. I make up the world. I make up reality. Reality as it exists is unreality to me. The real world around me is false, and it's false because what's actually happening is that the world doesn't revolve around me, but that's the world that I make up because that's a more familiar one for me to live in. It's more the only world that I can make myself live in is one where I'm more important, or that's the only one that I understand. And I don't see myself as a person the same way that everybody else is a person. If I'm paranoid and people are trying to bring me down, or they're trying to ruin me, or they're trying to figure me out so as to deny me the right to be a person, and I don't get the right to be a person because I am paranoid, but I'm more paranoid than anybody else. And also, I think I'm the most paranoid. I'm paranoid. I also think I'm the most paranoid. I have the most problems, and I'm the most unable to escape my paranoia. The more that I recognize myself to be paranoid, it is more inescapable. And there's nothing that I can do about it. And then the more that I share that I am paranoid, the more that I'm a point of fascination. But I don't. But seeking to be paranoid makes it so that other people, being paranoid makes it so that other people have control over my circumstances, and I don't have control over what I do, and I don't have the right to manipulate the space around me or move about freely or be aggressive in any way, because other people have the right to be aggressive. I only get to be passive and wait for other people to decide my fate because I'm paranoid, because I don't have any control over what I'm doing. Because if I had control over what I was doing and I understood I was able to make reality my own, or walk around as if my life wasn't a performance, or walk around as if reality was reality and that I was walking around in reality, if I was able to do that, then I wouldn't be paranoid. But I'm not able to do that, and therefore my reality is just that I appear a certain way to other people, and that I appear from the perception of other people rather than that I'm doing anything myself. I'm not doing anything myself. I just appear from the perspective of other people, and they see me, and they create my reality collectively. My reality is collectively created by the collective reality of other people, and what I see from other people's perspective, and the way that I'm defined from other people's perceptions is exactly what I am. But I don't have any control over that. The control over my circumstances and my reality and truth for me is given to other people. And so I don't know any truth as long as I'm paranoid. I just know falseness. I just know that what I do is false, because what I do from my perspective, when I'm doing it from my perspective, but as I know it to be only real from the perspective of other people, that makes everything I do immediately false and just a performance for other people's perspective, so that I can be defined in some way, the same way that other people are defined, or so that I can possibly see myself as a person. But I never see myself as a person if I don't understand that I'm just that I'm executing movement and walking through life the same way that other people do. And other people see me, and other people, and basically I'm just not a person. I'm not a person the same way other people are persons, because I see other people and I deem them to be persons, and the only person I don't deem to be a person is myself. As long as I'm paranoid, I deem other people to be persons, and other people to have realities, and other people to qualify as persons, and to qualify as having a reality that is viable, that they can live out, and that they're actually doing things. I don't see myself as being able to do things. I don't see myself as doing things. I see myself as emulating somebody who does things, or one day being somebody who does things, or one day having an identity the same way other people have identities. I don't see myself as having an identity. My identity is the collective identity as determined by other people, as long as I'm paranoid. And so I don't see myself as just wearing clothes. It's not that I just wear clothes. It's not just that I just live a life and am a person and have a dog and do normal things and go to a job. It's not just that. It's that I'm more important in some way, and therefore when I'm wearing clothes, there's some sort of reason behind it, and it's more that I'm trying to emulate a character that I've seen before, or emulate something that somebody else has deemed to be a viable reality. That's the only thing I can do, is try to replicate other people's realities as long as I'm paranoid, because reality for me isn't possible, and I'm not able to divulge my own reality or or manifest my own reality, because all I live in is the reality of other people, but it's a reality that's surrounding me, and basically everything surrounds me. As long as I'm paranoid, it's everything surrounds me, and the only perspective I know is the surrounding perspective, is the perspective of the surrounding, because it's the surrounding that determines what I am. It's not it's not me that determines what I am, it's the surrounding that decides me, and it's everything related to me that decides me, and I am unrelated to the things around me, and I'm unable to form relationships because the relationships are not there for me to be equal. Relationships aren't for me to be equal with other people. I don't see myself as equal with other people. Other people are just there to revolve around me, or to judge me, or to put me either below them or above them, but I'm not in relation to them the same way. I don't get to see myself as a person, or understand that I am equally a person and am equally to be defined as a person, as long as I'm paranoid, because because I'm more of a person than them. I'm more of a person. I'm made to be some sort of fixture, some point of fascination, and it's only the surrounding that determines what I am, as long as I'm paranoid. But I'm still worried, even as I speak, about being heard, because as long as I'm being heard, judgments are being made, and everybody's making it so that I won't be able to live out my life or do the things that I want to do, because what I want to do, if anybody understands that it is something that I want to do, people are going to figure that out, and then they're going to try to shut it down, and the world is working to shut down my wants and make it so that I don't get to do what I want to do, and make it so that what I want isn't even real, and that the emotions that drive those wants aren't real, and that I'm not a person, and that I don't have real motivations, and I don't cry real tears, and I don't have real anger, because my anger isn't from a personal place. It's just something that I'm acting out, as long as I don't see myself as being able to have real anger. But as long as I'm not validated in my emotions, or validated in my reality by other people, and I'm not understood to be a person, and as long as the world is working to shut down my wants and shut down what makes me myself, then I'm not able to live out my emotions in any satisfactory way. I'm not able to understand my emotions to be true, because it's only your emotions that can cause you to live out a true reality. And as long as I don't know my emotions to be true, then I stand as paranoid. But I can't understand my emotions to be true, as long as it's only the surrounding perspective that determines my emotions, and as long as the real place where the emotions come from, which is centrally the point that is me, as long as that's the real place where emotions come from, and I give no validation to the central point, but that the central point is only determined by the collective reality of what is surrounding the point, then I don't understand myself to have real emotions, and I don't validate the point. I see myself as a negation rather than a position, as a negation as a falseness rather than a truth. I see myself as false, and that everything I do is false, as if it's some sort of performance or some sort of theater, as long as I know that I'm paranoid. But I am paranoid, and I'm afraid. I'm afraid of things. I live in fear. I don't live in love. I don't live in connection. I live in separation. I live knowing that I'm separated, as long as I'm paranoid. But I do live in fear, and I don't understand myself to be able to gain any sort of advantage over anybody, or know myself to be an equal competitor the same way other people are competitors, because I'm not necessarily a competitor so much. I'm just an authority. I only get to see myself as a falseness or as an authority. As long as I'm paranoid, I see myself as an authority, or because that's exactly what I am to the surrounding world. If they're focusing on me, it's because I am an authority, or but the authority is acknowledged, but I see myself as an authority rather than as not an authority, rather than as an identity, because an authority is something like the opposite of an identity. I see myself as an authority, rather I see myself inwardly. I know myself only to be an authority. That's what I mean to say. I only know myself to be an authority, rather than that I know myself to be an identity, because if I knew myself to be an identity, I would see and understand myself as able to live outwardly and communicate and manifest myself externally, and I would be able to manifest the things that I find to be true within myself externally. But as long as I only see myself as an authority, the things that I imagine are only kept to my imagination, and they're kept within the bounds of my the authority that I have over my subjective reality, as long as I only understand myself to be an authority, and I only understand myself to be passive and unable to communicate reality outside of myself, and unable to execute reality. And the only reality that's true to me, my emotions, my subjective reality, what is true to me, the things that I know, they don't get to be realized in the world. They're only known within me, because as long as I'm realized, because realizing things in the world is difficult to me as long as I'm paranoid. They're difficult to me for being paranoid because they're already under heavy scrutiny, and they're going to be judged, and people are going to find a way to say that reality doesn't exist. And as long as I understand myself to be more paranoid, the less that I'm going to share myself externally, and the more that I'm going to understand that it's only me within my subjective reality, me as an authority within myself, that I'm going to understand. And the more that I'm unable to understand myself to live external to myself, the more that I only live in my head, and reality, the only true reality for me is one that's carried out in my head, the more that I am the only one that shares in that reality, and the more that I become a lunatic, and the more that truth to me is only true to me and not true to anybody else, the more that I'm a lunatic, and the more that I only see my actions as being done as a performance, meaning that they aren't validated by anybody else, the more that what I'm doing is just what I'm doing for myself, to amuse myself, and not for anybody's benefit, and the more that it serves to just make me more alone and isolated and singular in my opinions, the more that I understand myself to be paranoid, and the more that I'm unable to speak on the other side of myself, and it just makes it so that I only want to stay inside myself. As long as I'm paranoid, I only just want to, I don't want to share anything really true. I just want to share stuff that's replicatory. I just want to share stuff that sounds good to other people, or what I think would sound good to other people, or would sound passable or acceptable to other people, and not out of the realm of reality. I need to say stuff that sounds like reality to other people, because they're judging it to see if it is unreality, and they're judging me to see if I am a crazy person, and they're judging me to see if I am, they're judging me to see as that I'm staying within the bounds of reality as far as I know, as long as I'm living vicariously through other people's perspectives, and understanding that the perception of me is what exists rather than that I exist, because I'm deciding, as long as I'm deciding through my paranoia, that it's other people's perceptions of me that give me my existence, and so I have to exist, right? And so in order to exist, I have to make sure that I'm doing things that other people do, or do things that reality tells me is existence, or reality tells me that other people get to exist as, because you only get to exist as a certain number of things, and I have to be like one of those things in order to exist, as long as other people are seeing me, because other people's subjective realities aren't going to include things that are from unreality, as far as I know, as far as I'm going to be able to safely assume. And so I have to come across as the most average possible, or the most normal possible. I have to come across as the most acceptable possible, passable, normal possible, in order for the collective perceptions of other people to accept me as a regular person, or know me to be reality, because I'm unable to imagine my own reality and say that reality begins with me, and that I can then expand on my reality, as long as it begins from me, and begins from the central point that is me. It begins from where I already am, begins from where I begin. I'm unable to say that I begin from where I begin. I'm only able to say that I begin from where I end. From where I'm perceived from other people. That's the only place that I get to say that I am, rather than that I have a beginning and am a person, the same way that other people are persons, and the same. I don't get to see that I am the same as other people. I don't get to see that I have the opportunity to just wear clothes the same way that I would perceive other people to be. And then the way that I perceive other people is that they get all the respect of being a person. They get to be exactly what they are. Anything that they wear is perfectly acceptable and perfectly fine, and there's nothing out of the ordinary about anything that anybody else does, because all of them are people, and they've already been given the right to be people, as long as I'm as far as I'm concerned, with me being paranoid. They are already given the right to be people, and they already get to wear exactly everything that they want, and everything that they're wearing is acceptable and passable because, of course, they're persons, but I don't see myself as a person, so the standard is much higher for me, and when I wear clothes, it's under heavy scrutiny and heavy judgment because I'm some sort of fixture to other people. But when other people wear clothes, they can wear whatever they want, and their identity is already justified. They already have a cemented identity, is from my perspective, because my perception is that everybody is a person and that everybody is already equal except for me, because I'm special, because I'm not equal, because I'm unique in some way, either above or below, because I am worthy of the fascination. For some reason I see myself as a point of fascination, or I have to live it out that I'm a point of fascination. And so I would rather live as a crazy person, and so in some ways rather live as a crazy person so that I am special in some way, so that I can understand the world to not be normal, but understand the world to be in some way spectacular or supernatural. I want to understand the world to be supernatural. I want to maintain my paranoia, as long as the paranoia makes it so that I'm unique in some way. I want to understand myself to be above other people, or at least hold on to something that gives me the reason to say that I am a point of fascination, or I want to imagine myself to be a point of fascination as long as I'm paranoid. And then that makes it more high stakes. Either I'm very high or I'm very low, but I'm not the same as other people, as long as I'm paranoid, and that's what makes you. And so as long as I'm paranoid, then I imagine I don't imagine myself to have an identity. I imagine myself to have split identities, to have varying identities based on the situation, and then I am an identity based on, but I don't see myself as one thorough identity, as one identity that communicates its reality, or that my subjective reality is wholly communicated. I don't see that. I only see that I am different people, but I see that because I understand myself to be supernatural and capable of more than an identity, and capable of more than the people around me who I assume to be singular identities. And part of being paranoid is the assumption that you give to other people that they are singular identities and that they are normal people, but that you yourself are not normal, and so since I am paranoid, I am different personalities, or I'm insecure enough to imagine myself to be different things. I'm insecure enough to imagine myself to be different things. I don't imagine myself to be secure the same way other people are secure, the same way that other people get to live in the world and have secure lives and have the potential for happiness, the same way that have potential for happiness because they see themselves as people. I just understand myself to be different from them, and part of what makes me different is that I have the capacity to imagine my identity to be many different things, but based on the situation, but more so than that I just get to imagine that I'm different things. I choose to not have an identity so that I have the agency to be different things based on the situation, or I have the agency to imagine myself to be more supernatural in some way, or imagine myself to have greater power. But because I'm able to imagine myself to be that way, and am insecure enough to have the agency to formulate my identity in different ways, in different capacities, and in different environments, and have different realities. I am a culmination of a number of realities rather than that I am one reality. I don't pose one reality. I maintain the option to pose many different realities. And so I'm a collection of different realities, and when you are only supposed to pose one. And since I'm the collection of realities, I'm a composition and a product rather than a singular instance, and therefore I'm not a person necessarily, as I am a composition of different people. I'm a composition of different people, and so that's what makes me a schizophrenic, is that I am multiple. I'm able to generate multiple personalities, but more so than that, I don't deem any one of the personalities to be better than the other one, so as to define myself in any one way. I choose to not be defined. I choose to not have an identity. I more so choose to maintain myself as a culmination of identities and a culmination of realities, so that I can be more special than other people who only have one reality, and they only have one reality because from my perspective they are all people, and people are supposed to have one reality, and that's what's normal. And it's really just the case that I see other people to be normal, and then I want to maintain my speciality, and I maintain my speciality by saying that I'm not one person, I'm not a person, I'm multiple people. The only way that you can say that you're not one person and understand yourself to be sort of true is to understand that you are multiple people, or you give in to the side of you that is a formulation of different definitions rather than a singular definition. Like, I see myself as multiple definitions, and being able to be more than one thing, being able to be more than just a single person, or being able to be more than a human. But the only reason I'm able to do that is because I'm insecure enough to have the agency to imagine my identity to be different things, and imagine my personality to be different things, and imagine myself to have multiple personalities within one person. And so that makes it so that I get to be more than just a normal person, and then so that makes it so that I get to be more than just a normal person, and other people have to, and because I am more than just a single person, of course I'm a point of fascination. I carry out the only realities that I can carry out. I don't have a secure reality. I don't have a secure way of manifesting the way that I am, and other people know that it's not secure. But also I am more special than other people because I am the only one who understands myself to be capable of multiple personalities when there are other people capable of multiple personalities. But for some reason, but since I'm the only person I know to be this way, and everybody else is manifesting themselves through one singular way, or at least trying to be the same way as everybody else, as long as everybody is to some degree agreeing to consciousness, but at least understanding themselves to be only one thing, and not recognizing that paranoia like different varying levels of personality exist from lots of people. As long as that's not recognized to be true in reality, then I will understand myself to be supernatural in some way, and I will understand myself to be a point of fascination, as long as I'm the only person for which I know that this existence is true, as long as I'm the only person for which I know that the existence of having multiple personalities is true, because there are other people that have multiple personalities, and they're sidelined, and they're isolated, and they're deemed to have a problem that needs to be fixed, and they aren't really necessarily, they're not allowed to exist in reality the way that they are, because that's not an acceptable reality. It's not acceptable to be more than one person at one time. And so I'm the only person who knows that they get to exist in reality as more than one person at one time, and therefore I understand that I'm a point of fascination, or it feels like it has to be known by everybody that like I'm not existing this as a person the same way that they are, and the rest of reality is composed of people existing as singular identities. And of course they find me to be abnormal, and of course they understand that I'm different from them, and then of course the surrounding world is determining my perspective, and the surrounding world has to determine my perspective because I can't determine it myself. And so then the surrounding world naturally determines my identity, because the surrounding world only exists to determine singular identities, and the surrounding world is composed of only definitions and people who try to identify themselves in only one way. And so then of course I stand out, and of course my identity has to be determined by other people, as long as I'm not determining it myself, because having multiple personalities isn't an acceptable identity, because an identity is ultimately has to be defined to one thing. I mean, it has to be defined to your name. You're one person, everybody goes by their name, everybody is assumed to be one person. I can't understand myself to be multiple people, and so therefore my identity I'm not able to determine it from within myself. Other people have to determine it, or at least I think that other people have to determine it. Since I'm paranoid, I think that other people are determining my identity, because I can't determine it on my own, or I assume that they know that I don't know my identity, so they're trying to figure out my identity, and I give them the power to determine who I am, because I'm unable to determine it myself, because I don't exist as one identity, of course. And as long as I maintain that, I know that I'm unable to be one thing. And so as long as identity is to be maintained at all, other people have to determine my identity, and they're given power to control my fate. And it's their perceptions that decide exactly who I am, and exactly what I'm doing, and exactly what I'm wearing. When I try to make it one thing, but and so I'm paranoid, and so I'm afraid, and so I'm scared of the world around me. I'm afraid of what they see me as, and it's just about what they see me as. It has nothing to do with what I actually do. It only has everything to do with what my appearance is and what I sound like, what the appearance of my sounds are, what the appearance of my words are, what my words taken literally can be. It's only me taken entirely literally, and there's no room for interpretation. I don't get to be interpreted by other people. I don't get to say that me to other people there's room for interpretation on what they see. I'm only taken entirely literally by other people. If I'm absolutely paranoid, I'm only taken literally. My words are taken literally. It's only taken at face value because I only understand them to be trying to accept what I'm saying, and so I'm understanding their perspectives to be absolutely accepting of only what is literal, as long as as I tend toward paranoia. The more that I tend toward paranoia, the more that I'm afraid, and the more that it is just about what other people see from me. They don't get to see what I am, because as long as it's something that I'm genuinely doing, it has nothing to do with me. They don't get to see me. They don't get to see the interpretation of it. They don't get to see the subjective reality of my reality. They only see the objective. They only see me as a point, and only are able to take me literally. The more that I see myself to be paranoid, that I'm paramored. The more that I'm paramour is the more that I'm paranoid. The more that I understand myself to be paramour is the more that I'm just that. And here I am acting like a guy, but I'm the band Paramore. And then then she makes her own solo career, and she just sings all the words that she comes up with to sing about have nothing to do with sex or anything bad, because she's probably wants to maintain that she's Christian in some way. Like, I don't know. But there's nothing sexualized about anything that Paramore sings about. Well, she's got a body like an hourglass. Of course there's something. It's just not really driven by sexual ventures. Anyway, she's got a body like an hourglass. It's ticking like a clock. She's got a body like an hourglass. It's ticking like a clock. It's just a matter of time before we're all found out. So there is something that I'm wrong. There is sexualized things that she sings about, but I'm paranoid, and so other people only see. It's just what other people see, and then I'm living a performance, because it is just me trying to pander to the audience of what everybody's seeing, or pandering to the perspective of other people and what the other people's perceptions, as long as that's what I'm living out. And I don't understand myself to be living an actual life. I don't understand myself to be living an actual life as long as people are taking me entirely literally, because in order to live an actual life, you have to be accepted as an individual, or it has to be accepted that you do things differently, or that there is some value in your subjective reality. And if people don't accept that there's some value in my subjective reality, they understand me to exist absolutely. They understand me to exist literally, entirely the truth of what they would perceive me to be. They would only understand me to exist from their perceptual point of view, if that's a word, perceptual point of view. And so because I'm paranoid, I'm afraid of being understood, because being understood almost doesn't even exist from the point of somebody who tends toward absolute paranoia. Because I wouldn't be understood. For me to be understood is to be judged. To be understood is to be lamented, and to be scrutinized. To be understood to be something evil. The more that I'm understood, the more that it's found out that I'm evil, the more that I'm just absolutely paranoid, because ultimately, as long as I'm paranoid, I understand myself to be evil, and that everybody is just trying to figure it out. Like everybody's trying to catch me, or catch me as untruthful, and that they will one day, because I'm ultimately false. As long as I'm paranoid, they're trying to figure me out to be normal the same way that they are. As long as I maintain that I'm abnormal and supernatural, it's always, the paranoia stems from them. The thing that they're trying to figure out is that I am normal. Like, I don't want to be found out to be normal, or found out to be a person. And that's what I'm afraid of, because to me I am ultimately false in that way, and I carry out falsely because I know that I am ultimately a person, and that what's trying to be found out about me is that I maintain some sort of a speciality that I don't have the authority to maintain. And so to me it's that the world is trying to figure me out because I see myself as false and see myself deserving of judgment, but other people in reality don't actually carry on seeing me that way. They just see me, like, generally see me as another person, and most people don't consider me a point of fascination enough to try to figure out that I see myself as special, as long as I'm not maintaining my speciality, as long as I'm not actually doing anything that would make somebody think that I'm special, because I just consider myself to be special from my own point of view, but don't ever have to act it out or maintain my identity truthfully as somebody special. I just understand myself to be that, and then the world is always trying to get me for the fact that I don't actually maintain myself through a speciality, but just understand myself to be that, and understand myself to be different and in some way above or below other people, and understand myself to be separated from them, and understand myself to be isolated and unique from the rest of them. I understand myself to be that, but I know that that's false. The more that I tend toward absolute paranoia, I know that I'm false. But the thing that other people are trying to figure out is that I am false, and that's what I'm worried about them figuring out. Is I'm worried about people figuring out that I'm just a person the same way that everybody else is, because I am a person. That's the problem. I am a person, but I see myself as paranoid because I want to maintain my speciality, and people are trying to figure me out. People are trying to figure out that I'm false, and that's what makes me see myself as false, ultimately, from the point of view of others. That's what makes it so that I can't live out a reality, and that everything I do is false, because I'm carrying it out from the perspective that I'm not a person myself. I myself am living. I myself am subject to the paranoia, is what makes me paranoid. I'm subject to the perceptions of others, and then carry out everything falsely. And I carry it out falsely because I don't see myself as what I actually am, when I'm actually a person the same way that everybody else is a person. And what's actually true about me is that I am a person the same way everybody else, and I get to live in the same reality as everybody else. And then so that makes it so that what you're worried about is this authority that you maintain as somebody that's different from everyone, and then it makes it so that it feels like you're a point of fascination, because that's what you maintain, as long as I'm paranoid and tend towards paranoia. But I just want to be special, and I just want to be special, and I just want to be special, but the world won't let me be special, because the world keeps telling me that the world just happens, and that the world is reality. The world continues to tell me the surrounding point of view. Everybody around me continues to tell me that the world's reality is what's going on, and that the world doesn't care about whether or not you're special. I mean, the world's reality continues to be against my reality, where my reality makes me different from everybody else, but the world's reality tells me that I'm the same as everybody else. And the more that I just try to maintain myself as special, the more that falseness is brought to light by the surrounding point of view, and that surrounding point of view continues to carry on telling me that I'm a liar, because they're continuing on saying that I'm normal, and I don't consider myself to be normal. The surrounding point of view keeps telling me that that my reality isn't true, just by virtue of the fact that they don't recognize me to be different from them. And so it makes it so that everybody's set against me, or I make it so that everybody's set against me, and that my perceptions are just that me as a person is just the evaluations made through other people's perceptions. But won't the world just let me be different from them, even though I carry on entirely normally, even though to anybody else I have an entirely normal life? To anybody, I just have a normal life in the world, and I'll just die one day and have lived this normal life. But as long as me to myself maintain myself to be special the entire time, then I didn't just live a normal life. I am destined for something, or am going to be something better one day. And as long as I'm living, and as long as the reality that I know to be true tells me that I'm special, which is only the reality contained within the authority that is myself, and then outside of myself is everything that's false, which is the reality practiced by the world. As long as I get to maintain that, then I don't have a normal life, and it's not just a regular thing. I don't have to face my life. I don't have to take responsibility for the entirely normal life that I live, and I don't have to see myself as other people. I get to see myself as above them, as long as I'm paranoid. But that's just something that you tend towards as long as you're paranoid. And so it's the maintaining yourself as being something special, and you have to be special to maintain yourself as special. Though you have to see yourself as special. You have to understand that your identity is something more separated or unique in order for you to do that. Because if you're somebody who sees themselves as normal and prefers to see themselves as normal and tends towards seeing themselves as normal, they will just be normal the same way everybody else is normal. But if you don't want to see yourself as normal, you're going to maintain yourself as set against the rest of the world and different from the rest of the world that wants just the reality of the world to continue the way it normally does. And so you make it so that your reality is set against the reality of the world, and then you take on a narcissistic point of view that for some reason your individual reality has more to say than other people's realities. And as long as you tend as part of tending towards paranoia but I am paranoid, so I'm afraid of but I'm afraid of other people just naturally, though. It's not just this big thing about me being made out to be a liar. It's just that naturally, it's just a natural occurrence, because that's what I naturally tend towards. I naturally tend towards being afraid of saying something or being afraid of doing something normal. And what is normal for me is something I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of doing normal things because normal things are to be judged by the rest of the world. For me, being somebody who's paranoid, I'm incapable of normal things. I can't do normal things because that's bad. I have to do special things or something like that. I don't like doing normal things because they're scrutinized, but anything I do I feel is scrutinized because I'm afraid of the world around me, and I'm afraid of their judgments and feel like they're judging me and feel like they're looking at me or looking to me or making it a point to understand what I'm doing or evaluate me, or that their intuition is centered towards me to figure out what I'm doing, or that they already understand what I'm doing and they're trying to track my every movement because I'm some sort of threat to them, because I'm more dangerous or more important to them than other people are. And so I'm afraid of being understood every second, and then I have to try to be above understanding, be above being understood by other people. I can't be understood because being understood is me being understood to be false, and they'll understand that I'm not capable of living in reality the same way that they are, so I can't be understood. I have to be above being understood by other people. I don't get to formulate relationships with people the same way that they do, and so in order to be above them, I make it so that I can imagine myself to be anything rather than just a person, or rather than a digestible form of human being that they've seen or noticed or that they're able to understand. I have to be above what's understood in human beings, or what human beings are capable of, and so I have to be undefinable. And in order to do that, I have to be able to imagine my identity to be more than just myself, or be able to change my identity when I start to be understood. And so I have to not be understood, and I'm always on the run. I'm always being chased, and people are always trying to understand me, and then I have to change myself in order to be above definition, and in order to be needed by people, because it's only the people that are needed that are the furthest away. I can't be convenient to people. I have to be inconvenient, because it's the people that are furthest away that you need the most. Like, you don't need something that's right near you. You don't need stuff that's convenient to you. You need people that are further away or harder to comprehend. Like, you can always be needed. You can always be further away or without or above people, the more that you maintain that your necessity and your essentiality as a person. And so I seek to maintain my essentiality and my uniqueness and my speciality. I seek to be essential. I can't be inessential, because the second that I'm inessential, then I'm understood, and then other people then people will know me to be false, because at the heart of it, I understand that I am false and don't get to live in reality the same way that they do. But also at the heart of it, I don't want to be made to be normal the same way other people are normal, and so I'm set against being understood to be normal, and so I make it so that I have to be abnormal. And so it's only once people comprehend my abnormalness or are able to define me that I'm entirely defeated, and I can't be defeated because it's a competition. I have to maintain that I'm abnormal and be undefinable, and as long as I'm able to maintain my undefinability, then I will be above other people and maintain my essentiality. And I have to maintain my essentiality rather than be found out to be false, because in order to be found out to be false, and so I have to be able to be different personalities, and I have to be undefinable, and I have to be able to have a lot of agency with what I do, and I have to be able to project different identities, and I have to be different. I can't just be definable. I can't be understood. I have to be essential. I have to be unique. I have to be particular. I have to be special. I can't be not special. I have to be undefinable. I have to be special. I have to be higher. I have to try to win. I have to be somebody who has more ability to do things or is understood. I have to maintain that. I have to maintain my necessity in the world, my value in the world. I have to maintain my value and my identity. I can't be understood. I can't be found out that my identity isn't real. And that's what I'm trying to protect against. It's my as long as I tend towards paranoia. And as long as I tend towards paranoia and am paranoid, so